Today, we have got to talk about this hair. Actually, we've got to talk about this article that has been making the social media rounds lately. The CEO of Spotify, Daniel Ek, told Music Ally that musicians, quote, can't record music once every 3 to 4 years and think that's going to be enough, referring to, in this case, making a living. From the reaction on my Facebook feed alone, this comment caused a lot of ire among my musician friends. Here's the thing though, he's 100% right. Hails, minions and mortals, this is Quarantine Hair Fang von Rathenstein. Alright, get comfy kids, because today's topic is gonna be spicy. It is very easy for musicians to rail on services like Spotify, where each play of your song nets your band a hundredth of a penny. After all, the album might have taken you years to write, and tens of thousands of dollars to record, mix, and master. And now they turn around and dare to offer you a fraction of a penny for all of this work? And what, does the mega-rich CEO of Spotify just expect you to work your fingers to the bone, churning out song after song, and endlessly laboring for minimum wage compiled from fractions of a cent? Yes. Yes, he does. But here's the thing. He's not just talking about music, and I'm not either. You see, his quote was taken slightly out of context. He went on to clarify, stating, quote, "The artists today that are making it realize that it's about creating a continuous engagement with their fans. It is about putting the work in, about the storytelling around the album, and about keeping a continuous dialogue with your fans. I feel, really, that the ones that aren't doing well in streaming are predominantly people who want to release music the way it used to be released." And in that essence, he's totally right. Bands used to be able to release an album and coast on it, touring for maybe a year and then writing the next one as the sales checks kept rolling in. And if you wrote an absolute masterpiece of an album, like the Protomen's Act 2, The Father of Death, theoretically you could tour on that for 11 years straight and keep selling out clubs. By the way, Protomen, we're all still waiting for Act 3. Please. Please! But of course, dear viewers, you and I both know the music industry has drastically changed. There is a big lie that we are sold as young musicians, and that is the lie of the hit. The belief is that we are artists, spending years crafting masterpiece albums upon whose sales we can subsist for the rest of our existence. And you see it all the time in posts about royalty numbers, platinum album sale revenue, and lucrative movie placements. I'm sure we've all heard the story of the guy who never had to work again because his song got placed in a major motion picture. The problem is that a lot of that either isn't true or is wildly inflated. Sure, sales and royalties might look impressive until you realize the band gets to split 5% of that total between 5 people. And yeah, that one guy might have made 40 grand off of his metal song being used in a cereal commercial, but that was like 5 years ago, and he hasn't done anything since. So, how do you make a band commercially viable in today's short attention span climate? Tip number 1, top of mind visibility. If there's one thing that the last few years have taught me, it's that visibility equals validity. Think of it like this. When you release an album, you usually run a PR campaign to increase awareness of the fact that your album is out and it exists. Ideally, you'd like people to listen to it and like it and gain more fans, but the primary basic purpose of your campaign is, look, 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 I made a thing! I made a thing! Look at it! I made it! I made it! I made it! I made it! The fact that you have produced something makes your band more valuable than a band who hasn't. I would rather book a band that just released a new album than one who hasn't put out anything in 5 years. This idea extends to everything else you're involved in. The more I hear about your band, the more videos you make, or guest spots you do, or ridiculous merch you put out. By the way, buy our tarot deck! The higher the perceived credibility of your brand. Until you put out an album that critics and fans praise as one of the apex albums of your genre, like, well, Apex, you need to consistently build and maintain your validity. The more things you do, the more content you release, and the more I see your logo and your big, dumb face on my feed, the faster I'm going to be able to recall your band's name. Advertisers call this top-of-mind awareness, and as an example, I could ask, say as many toilet paper brands as you can think of in the next 10 seconds. The brands that appear more often are top-of-mind brands, probably because they've done a lot of advertising to make you think of them first. Moving this concept back over to music, being a top-of-mind band for your genre has a ton of benefits. Festival bookings, guest solo requests, interviews, the works. In contrast, There's a number of bands that came out with an amazing album last year, and I haven't heard anything from them since. Like, are they, like, still a band? In the before times, this really wouldn't be something anyone would worry about. I mean, bands take years to put out albums, right? But in today's age of instant, endless music availability, and especially during quarantine, the less your band is top of mind, the quicker I'm forgetting about you. It's true that in 2020 there are way more bands, way more choices, way more competition, and way more instant gratification than there used to be. The upside of this is that there are fewer millionaire musicians and a lot more musicians in the middle class. We've changed from the top 40 hits to the top 43,000 streaming artists. That means that anyone with a solid niche following can actually survive off their content. So, how do you both boost your income and stay top of mind? Tip number two, diversify.
You need to diversify your bonds.
This is no surprise to longtime watchers of this channel, but diversifying your income streams is the key to staying afloat as a musician. And this, more than anything else, is what makes Daniel's spicy quote ring true. You might have an amazing album release, but what happens when sales dry up? You might rely on money from touring, but what happens when a global pandemic stops you from playing live? How are your merch sales doing when there's nothing new or exciting on the horizon? A smart band can weather economic storms and stay top of mind with and without their music. And big shocker here, this is all on you to DIY. Okay, brainstorm with me here. Between releases, what can you do to stay engaged with your audience? What can you do to grow your audience? Maybe making music videos, playthrough videos, a walkthrough of the writing process behind each of the songs. Or it could be something completely unrelated to your music, a barbecue cooking show, a beer review podcast, a video advice show to help struggling bands make it out of the garage. Maybe you want to work on covers, maybe start up a side project crafting chiptune music, maybe live stream painting. It doesn't really matter what it is. Find something you're really passionate about and use this side hustle to simultaneously attract new fans and keep your band top of mind. You may not be able to put out a masterpiece album every few months, but I bet you could spend an afternoon writing a script for a simple YouTube video. Most bands can separate their income into 3 different buckets: active, passive, and side hustle income. I'm going to break this down in detail, but bear in mind that each band's bucket will be unique to them. Hopefully by the end of this you'll see how relying on only one bucket will
spell your doom.
Bucket number 1 is your active musical income. This means direct album sales, merch sales, and ticket sales from your live performances. Bucket number 2 is your passive musical income. This means streaming income, royalties, digital sales, TV and commercial placement, and any sort of crowdfunding like Patreon. And seriously, if you haven't started a Patreon yet, just go do it now. I even made a video on do's and don'ts. Link is in the description. Bucket number 3 is your side hustle income. This means income from YouTube, live streams, marginally related content, and the like. Remember that the buckets all feed into each other. You may think that $233 is not a whole lot of advertising revenue on YouTube, but a whole lot of people who see our videos will stream our music, buy our merch, or join the Patreon. Psst, you should join the Patreon. So all the buckets help sustain each other. Now, you may say,
Fang man, I'm an artist, okay? What I do is write music, and I just can't do all those other things, man.
Number 1, it's called YouTube. There are about 5 million hours of tutorials on literally anything. And number 2, look, you can cook the best food in the entire world, but if you're not willing to figure out business tax law or how to do payroll, you'll never be a restaurant owner. You're just a chef. Today, right now, it's DIY or die. You've got to be willing to branch out and try different things. I know a number of really great musicians who started a side gig that became their main source of income, like they quit their jobs type of income. So don't ever be afraid to try. To wrap all this up, the CEO of Spotify is 100% right when he said that constant and consistent engagement with your fans is the only way that bands will survive in today's music industry. It's a lot more work, that undoubtedly is true, but you no longer have to hope that you might be lucky enough to make it into the top 40. The top 43,000 is just fine by me. Thanks for watching, and if you want to see what all the fuss is about by joining the #1 most supported independent metal band Patreon on the internet, take your most metal browser over to patreon.com youtube.com/Lords of the Trident and join our metal army today. We'll see you next time. Stay metal.